Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nala.
And I'm Faith.
And this is the Sirens Den breakdown, theories, and things you may have overlooked for the 4th episode of Loki.
As always, this is your official spoiler warning.
A lot went down this episode.
Yeah,
a lot happened.
That was an I wouldn't say action-packed, but it was definitely an information-packed 50 minutes.
This episode was called the Nexus Event, which is obviously something that we've heard many times in the past. In regards to Wanda, she is a Nexus being, and we've said that means she's the same throughout all these timelines. So obviously, with it being in the sacred timeline, Nexus events are like, they're serious.
And that line, if we're going to get straight into it, that line was like a 90-degree line in a place that it shouldn't have happened in an apocalypse, right?
Yeah. Like, this episode covers a lot on Nexus events. We see 2. We don't quite know what they are, but we know they're there. We'll explain. We'll explain as we go through the episode.
That kicks us right off into the first one. Go ahead, Faith.
It does kick us off into the first one. So we start off on Asgard. Woohoo! And it turns out it is Sylvie's version of Asgard, and we get to meet her as a little girl. She has a dragon toy, and she has a like Pegasus toy, and she's just like all around happy, and she's just like, and the Valkyrie defeats the dragon. And then the Time Police can't come in and are like, get her, and just arrest a child for no reason. And we know something in there caused the Time Police to come and yoink her from that reality. But we don't really know what, because all we see in what happened is she was playing with toys.
Which, I mean, when it cuts back to present day, that's kind of what she thinks is the thing. It was her playing with toys. It was the fact that, I guess, a female Loki shouldn't exist.
That's what she thinks it is, but Faith has a good theory. Hit us with that, Faith.
Do I have a good theory?
You said it was because she wanted to be a hero.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily, because like looking into like what she did and like what like would cause a Nexus event. Like we've kind of established that Loki's gender is fluid just through the we got that like document, and that might just be like the TV writers trying to explain how there's a girl Loki in one reality and a boy Loki in the other. But I'm gonna choose to believe that it's not that, because I hope not. So just the idea that Loki could change genders, that makes sense to me. Like Loki being different genders at different times. This time Loki happened to be like a girl. But I think is when she's playing, she very specifically had, because the Valkyries, like they were heroes that were looked up to, especially by kids in Asgard. Like Thor is on record saying that he really wanted to be a Valkyrie when he was a kid. And she's in her little like play when she's playing with them, she's like, and the Valkyries win against the bad guys. So I think the Nexus event could easily have just been that the Valkyrie beat the dragon, that the good guy won. Because Loki, it's like usually we see him as a villain, and like the TVA wants us to believe that Loki is always a villain no matter what. So that might just have been a small little thing that caused just this giant branch of just the small butterfly effect decision of having the Valkyrie win.
You know what? I like that. That absolutely makes sense, because I guess Loki would usually do something to, kind of spin the story to where the dragon would probably win. But, I like it.
That's what I said. I said I'd like it. I'm like, yeah, maybe it was because he wanted to be a hero. And it's like, wait a second, Loki, you're not a hero.
And especially because a big theme of the show is, can Loki be a good person?
And I mean, when Sylvie was killing all those people, the song "I Need a Hero" was playing.
I still can't believe Loki gave us a Shrek 2 reference.
All right. So back to the beginning and baby Sylvie's story. She gets taken by Renslayer, who we now know was a Minutewoman, and went by the name of A23. A23?
A23.
Not
Why?
to be confused with A24 Studios.
A23, we're pretty sure it's a reference to Avengers 23, which is the introduction of Ravonna Renslayer as a character. In it,
Mm.
Kang confesses his dying love for her, and she's like, "Thanks, I'm good." And then he tries to conquer her world. You know how all
Wow.
great matches are made.
Great.
But yeah, I think that's a really clever and Marvel's always been really good about just adding like kind of the nice comic reference details in there. Especially like in their costuming. Like just I think that was just a nice subtle detail, like a nice little Easter egg. But also like with the costuming department to give like a shout out to them for this show. Christina DiMartino, she posted on Twitter today about how they specifically made her costume to be compatible with her being able to breastfeed, so she could
Mhm.
be like a working mother, while also being on this big old Marvel show, and that they specifically made it like for her needs as a parent, and I just think that's cool. I think it's really cool the level of detail that they've put into these costumes, not only in just the aesthetic, but just like to accommodate for their cast and crew and like make them as comfortable as possible to get the best product possible.
I got you. I believe her name is Sophia DiMartino, though.
Why did I say Christina?
But no, I absolutely agree. That's really awesome, and I want to see more of that in the film world. I want to see more of that normalization of working moms and not having like actors suffer to be in their costumes. Because like, what's the point?
I mean, that's just poor costume design nowadays. If your costumer can't adapt and make these things accessible, then they're not doing a good job.
Yep.
That's a very 90s, 2000s thing where the costumes were such a problem.
Also, guys, I figured it out who I got. I guess I got Sophia DiMartino mixed up with soccer player Christina Tina DiMartino.
Oh wow, makes sense.
I just had to Google it and be like, "Is that a person, or did I just pull that from that random?" She kind of looks like a Christina.
So what do we think
I can
about
see it.
what do we think about Renslayer's past too?
Well, I'm excited that we see more of her backstory, but it also goes to like I wonder how time works in the TVA then, because I just thought that the people like if they were created by the TVA, which we will later find out is not the case, they would be in their jobs like forever. They would be created in their jobs and they wouldn't ascend ranks because like time doesn't exist. So it was interesting to see her go from being one of the foot soldiers to now being one of the judges. And like I think the person pretty much in charge who has like direct contact with the timekeepers.
Mhm.
This is the issue
It's
I
just
had was like they never said time doesn't exist. They just said time passes differently.
makes sense, but like how?
I guess we'll have to just keep watching Loki.
So after we get that, that's basically our act zero or our hook for the episode. Cut back to present day. We're back on Lamentus and the or the planet's exploding. We get this again really beautifully done, but also just conceptually terrifying shot from inside the planet as it's exploding and what it looks like from from space looking down at this moon that's about to be crushed. And the Lokis seem to have accepted, well, at least Sylvie has accepted her fate, and they have a cute heart-to-heart talk. All the while the TVA is trying to find out where they went, but are having no luck because nothing else is happening on the timeline until suddenly a branch, if the Nexus event branches off on the timeline and they are able to pinpoint their location. Now what do y'all think the event was?
Well, and you got to bring up too, because it's a branch that should never have happened at the same time, because this is a total apocalypse. Nobody gets off, so there should be zero branches that come off of this. And
Oh, you know what?
here we
That is
have,
so true. That is so true.
and here we have a 90-degree branch coming off of an event that should never have happened. and they shouldn't have branches anyway.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the going theory right now is that Loki and Sylvie are falling in love, which they are, but I don't think that's what's causing the branch. Because kind of for those reasons alone, they're on Lamentus One. It's been established that just it gets obliterated. That there's nothing survives. And
Mhm.
just I know it's time travels and rules don't matter, but they kind of do. And the rules they established is that Nexus events don't happen in these times because everything dies. Because so it
Mhm.
can't really spiral and turn into anything else. So whatever was about to happen was about to seriously change the trajectory of Lamentus One. This is something my partner and I were joking about last night, but like the more we think about it, the more we think it might be the route that they're gonna go. What if they straight up Dragon Ball fuse into like the superior Loki?
The last
I
episode
was
of
literally
Loki,
thinking.
the last episode of Loki is just him yelling, ah! And then at the very post
Um
credit, he finally transforms, right?
Or it's gonna be some sort of like big power up thing. Like I don't know what specifically, but it because that's how else or is something gonna survive a Lamentus one enough to cause a Nexus attack or a Nexus event. So I it's gonna be something power related. I don't know. I
Either be that or, maybe as he says, Loki's never die. And the fact that they were so close to like actually dying could also be
Ooh.
yeah, like that's how important they are. They can't actually die. So they bring Loki and Sylvie in. And I thought this part was tiny, but it was very funny that he talked about having less guards and escorts than her because, she's more dangerous. He gets offended by that. And I'm like, excellent, typical Loki.
yeah, I thought that I thought that whole sequence was incredibly funny. Just the hard cut to we don't even see them get arrested. We just see the doors open, and you have to think. I would. Do you think that they debated like staying behind on the planet and just facing death as opposed to like just, or do you think they just like dived through those doors like, oh, thank goodness.
They did a really cool thing. Someone pointed out about the lighting. The light shifts in that room, and as Mobius becomes more on Loki's side, he's hit more with light, and then as it shifts and he goes into darkness whenever he doesn't agree. It's pretty cool.
All right. So they separate the two Lokis because of course they do. That's the obvious thing to do when you're capturing two Lokis, I guess. But they go to drag Loki into what is called the memory prison, and like he has enough more banter with Owen Wilson, and Owen Wilson is like, one more quip you want to get in before you throw you in there, and Loki's like, yeah, they're lying to you. And Owen Wilson's like, yeah, right, and yucks him in there. But you can see it kind of shakes him a little bit because there's he's starting to already kind of dealt with some of the shady things since Hunter B-15 is dead, and he found that out earlier. Did we
Oh, we haven't. You
B-15?
want to get into that? Hunter
Oh yeah,
C20. Hunter C20 is dead.
see,
B15 is the other one.
man, they names and numbers, man. But yeah, earlier in the episode, Owen Wilson is like, I need to talk to Hunter C20 because she said she saw something and it'd be really helpful to like get more details on that so we can find these Lokis. And Ravona's like, yeah, about that. She died. She went insane and died, and Owen Wilson is like, oh wow. Or actually no, he said, how?
He did. It was so funny. How? You said it that way too.
Yeah. Why ask wow when you can ask how?
I thought, I did like Mobius's character development, I guess, so to speak, in this episode, because he went from someone who was like, for all time and like genuinely believing in his job to now doing, mischievous stuff. I think Loki really has started to rub off on him in terms of the mischief. So I like that touch of him stealing her little what, like Pokedex thing.
It is a Pokedex.
And I love when when we see them again, he's like, "Oh, like I was already, halfway to my place when I saw that I took yours. Oh, silly me." Like absolutely something Loki would do.
When Mobius took Ravona's temp pad or what, like he could have done that a lot better, right? Like he had it like really stealthily cool with the give her the dagger to make her turn around and then they'll switch him out really quick. And then he played it so suspiciously, like immediately. Like I was not the only one watching the rest of him being like, "Oh, well, I guess it's time for me to go." And she's like, "It's a career case. What do you mean it's time for you to go?" And he's like, "Well, Loki's got a dip." Like
So he puts Loki back as he puts Loki after interrogating him into a time cell that at first Loki thinks is a bad memory prison. But then he realizes that yes, it is that, but it is also a loop, and it is a loop of one time that Loki cut Sif's hair, and she came and punched him and kicked him in the nuts and told him that he will always be alone. He's always alone, and he always will be. And it's a funny kind of Groundhog Day type time loop scene that turns really emotional, as Loki tends to do.
One thing I noticed in this part, like the one time he doesn't get hit and he admits all his faults, she hits him with words that hurt worse than probably getting kicked in the nuts do. Like, you will die alone or whatever she says to him, and it was just like, oof.
In Norse mythology, there actually is a myth where Loki cuts off Sif's hair. He cuts off it kind of plays out a little bit similar. He cuts off Sif's hair because he thinks it'd be fun. She's not happy about it. And so he goes to the dwarfs, this is before that they made Mjolnir and all those the epic Norse mythology objects. But the first thing they made was new hair for Sif because Loki felt bad, and then they developed a good relationship, and then they made Mjolnir. And yeah.
Aw, new hair, like what kind of is it, like metal hair, like
Golden.
Yeah.
golden hair? Wow.
But yeah, I think the dwarfs made it like literally from gold because Loki messed up big time and needed something good to make up.
I loved seeing Sif again, and Jamie Alexander is a great actress. And is she gonna be in Love and Thunder?
She
Sure.
is.
Yeah. So one of the little Easter eggs that we get is in a conversation with Hunter B15. Stupid number names. But like he has like a quip of like, we've brought in Kree Titans and vampires, but like two misfit demigods we can't like handle. And it's not the first time we've had vampires referenced in the MCU. The first time was in Thor Ragnarok as kind of an aside from Taika Waititi's whatever Korg. What was his name, right? Korg?
Mm-hmm.
I almost said Kang, and that's definitely not right.
Yes, Korg.
Korg, because he there's like a moment where he has like a spear thing, and he's like, this is useless unless you're fighting three vampires really close together. But that's other than that, I think that's the only reference to.
Well, I
vampires.
think that might have also been a reference to Taika's own movie, What We Do in the Shadows.
I think it absolutely was. Yeah, you're right. That makes.
But they're doing what? They're doing Morbius over on Sony's side, so like
Mm-hmm.
they're bringing in the supernatural into
Yeah.
the MCU for sure.
We got Blade.
We got Blade coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for Marvel Vampires, but also, can you imagine? Like, I know, like, getting an encounter with like the time police in any situation it'd be a pretty nutso situation to be caught by the time police. But can you imagine being like a stupid vampire and getting arrested by time police for like biting the wrong guy's neck or like turning or like making a right turn instead of a left turn somewhere. Like
Mhm.
some like bizarre, like not remotely important reason, and then getting arrested by because you're a vampire. You've already been discovered. There's this whole dark underworld of like monsters, and you've been turned into a monster, and now you're like this like abomination against God monster who kills people, and you had to accept that, and they've been living with that for 100 years, and then you're arrested for time police for nothing to do with that. For absolutely not a goddamn thing. I mean, maybe it does, but probably not. I don't know. Maybe,
what is this?
yeah, maybe like they used to like
Is your
wrong.
count the one from Sesame Street? Oh,
A little bit. Except he's not like laughing. He's just like, ah, ah, ah.
He decided not to
What
have
is
Christmas
this?
that day, and that's why
You
they
know,
arrested.
Marvel is owned by Disney, and so is the Muppets. Oh no, Muppets is not Sesame Street. Who am I talking about?
Muppets is Sesame Street.
They are?
Yes. That's why they always cross over.
It's both Jim Henson Company.
Oh, okay. Well, yes. They are both in the same franchise.
But yeah, the idea of a vampire getting arrested by the time police. Can you vampire is probably like I've murdered hundreds of people over 200 years, and I'm being arrested for dental floss, buying different dental floss. Like what? Anyway, that's my thoughts on vampires in the MCU. Is that I'd be pissed off to be arrested by the time police if I was a vampire in the MCU.
I mean, it happened. Any more thoughts on vampires, Nala?
I'm excited for them. Again, these are Easter eggs, just dropped, and you look them over, but it's gonna come into play.
All right, we get brought in front of the timekeepers, which is to me, a clear Wizard of Oz homage. It's so funny because I think what was it? Mr. Sunday said it best on any other movie. Those effects for any other sci-fi TV show, those effects for those guys is actually pretty good. But since it's Marvel, we all knew that something was wrong. Like you could tell they're fake.
I love that it's don't look behind the curtain. That I love that they're fake. That's absolutely a little Marvel trope if I ever saw it. The big bad you thought it was turns out to be what, animatronics?
Part of the big three, right? Robot, alien, wizard.
Ah, yes, android. But
Robot.
also,
Yeah.
yes.
The fact that they are wizard, space, alien, androids, I think that's hilarious. I wonder if they meant to do that, like if that was just a wonderful little accident.
I think it's a wonderful little accident, right? It
Right.
seems.
Something I was thinking about because I rewatched it a few times, just to really overanalyze it as we do. Because there's that red mark symbol behind them, like it's like a red light, and it could be aesthetic, but it could also it kind of looks like the runes that Agatha and Wanda used in, like, the Hex, you know? 'Cause, there's, like, the thing that's, like, only the wizard who has the runes can use magic, and the 2 magic users are, like, completely useless in this area, so is there a chance that that's what's going on here? Is that a rune?
I
Is
would.
that why magic is useless?
I see. I don't see why not.
Like, that's probably me overanalyzing it,
No, New
but
Rockstars said the same thing. So, because it looks like one of the runes. It's glowing like the runes. You can't use magic.
we're kind of in the who's the big bad gonna be kind of aspect of it. I know the big one that people are theorizing is Kang the Conqueror because this is kind of his whole thing is conquering the timeline. Ravonna Renslayer is a character who's very specific to him. So, and we know that he's going to be coming into the MCU and Ant-Man. So he's unlike Mephisto, it's a character we actually know we're going to be getting.
Yeah, but see, when he's not, he had no idea about the Loki show. I think he's
Yeah.
so.
So
I
don't
really
think that,
think it's Miss Minutes.
well, I think It could be Miss Minutes. The other thing I've been thinking of, because the other theory of who the big bad at the end here is gonna be, but yeah, the theory on who the final villain of this is gonna be is he who reigns, who is the TVA agent who exists at the very end of time, who like put guidance in place for when the cycle rebirths itself or whatever time stuff Marvel Comics does.
He makes the timekeepers. The timekeepers go back in
He
time and
makes
establish the TVA, and the TVA exists or he exists at the end, and then it goes back around.
Yeah. So there's a theory on it could be He Who Remains, but I was thinking about it. If it is a He Who Remains situation, who's He Who Remains? And something I've been thinking about is something that we keep going back to is that Mobius cloned, right? That Ravonna probably knows a different Mobius. That she, like we know that from like the quips of like I see other agents on the side and the you left all those rings there yourself and Mobius not remembering them. But what if Mobius is he who remains like just through a sequence of events? That's why Ravonna is who she is. It's just a different Mobius who's giving her orders and is kind of doing all that. Um
I like that. I think though, if it's too late now, and it's got to be like kind of like WandaVision in a way, where
Mobius is an established character, though, so it wouldn't be like this random new person.
it's true.
And we already know, like, whoever's behind the TVA, it's someone. 'Cause I know Richard E. Grant was who people were theorizing he's gonna be He Who Remains at the end, but no, he's classic Loki. So who's behind the TVA that we've already seen and established? Maybe I hope that'd be really cool if it's Miss Minutes. But with kind of there, I think it'd be fun if it was Mobius. Uh,
I think the big bad is still gonna be the timekeepers because we still haven't seen them, and they obviously have something to hide. They're hiding behind animatronics. Are they? Is it because they're scared? Is it because they're really, really powerful beings? Like, I think there's still like we still need to. I don't know. Like, I don't know if we're gonna see the actual timekeepers or if they're going to make their debut in Ant-Man. But that's not gonna be for a while.
Miss Minutes being first build, Tara Strong being first build. I think it's her. Like in some way, they send an AI back to establish the TVA to then create the TVA because a person can't do that. Maybe in the MCU, so they use her to create it, and we find out she's the one because then she's robotic, like she said, she's alive and not, so she could be controlling them. She's in the AI, she's all the computers and stuff that are everywhere.
there's also a chance it could just be a Loki variant.
You know what? That's true too. It's just a Loki.
It's just a Loki who won and wants to ensure his eternal victory.
He took over the timekeepers and therefore he is the god of everything.
So yeah, we've established that Loki doesn't die, which is why even though my immediate reaction was sadness at seeing Loki get pruned by Ravonna, I knew he wasn't gone. Obviously, there are 2 more episodes left, and the show is named after them. So while it was sad, I think it also obviously gives Sylvie. I'm not saying he got fridged, but obviously, like this is going to affect how Sylvie goes if she does think he was pruned and has no way out and is gone forever. That might make her even more evil. I do not know.
I was sad. I thought for a second, like, oh yeah, this show can exist without him. Like, I justified it. Like, oh yeah, he could die. Like, there's nothing that says it's not Sylvie, and it becomes her show for a while. Like, they're doing Doctor Who anyway, right? And it's just a new
True.
doctor every time. So switching doctors is nothing new to me. So I was like, oh yeah, whatever. Well, I'm sure we'll run into him again on some other timeline, but. Like I was cool with it for a bit.
I think it's funny that he died the same way Coulson died in the first Avengers movie, being stabbed in the back. Because good old karma.
That's so true. He did get stabbed in the back. Well, can we also talk about how he has also died, like how Vision died?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was the last to go.
Very, very sad parallels.
Yeah, no, I think that whole scene was done super well. Like it was The tension they managed to keep just the entire time going. Yeah. I think they hit all their dramatic notes really well too.
And we did end up having a post-credit sequence in this one, finally.
Yeah, it was about time. So Loki wakes up. He's in some deserted apocalyptic area, and his first question is, "Am I in hell?" Not he double hockey sticks Christian hell, mind you. In the subtitles, it is distinctively the Norse mythology hell. HEL.
HEL.
So yeah, that does make sense. But anyway, that's his first question. And they're like, "Oh, you're not." He's a voice that's Richard E. Grant, and he's like, "Not yet, but come with us, or you'll be dead." And he looks up, and there's a bunch of Loki variants. One which is Richard E. Grant in the classic Loki outfit, credited as classic Loki, a kid Loki, a Loki with a hammer, and most importantly, an alligator Loki.
My favorite, alligator Loki.
Mhm.
Yes, Croc Loki.
What if that was because in Thor Ragnarok, there's a timeline like where Thor tells the story about how Loki turned into a snake and stabbed him. What if it's from that, but Loki decided to turn into an alligator instead?
Fabulous. Yes. I was kind of wanting a horse to be there somewhere.
That would have been funny.
I think we deserve to see Horse Loki.
Disney's not brave enough to do that, but which sucks because that would have been the funniest.
Thoughts on all the Lokis there, Nala?
I'm super stoked. Like it's absolutely, it was a parallel shot from